The UNHCR chief, Filipo Grandi, is just back from Borno State, where he saw firsthand the scale of humanitarian crisis in the wake of Boko Haram's insurgency. Borno State, also the birthplace of Boko Haram, being most affected. More than 20,000 have been killed, and the UN says millions face starvation. Filipo Grandi has been to 4 other countries: Chad, Niger, Cameroon and Central African Republic. All countries grappling with rising level of humanitarian crisis, but UN says this is the biggest crisis unfolding in Africa.
I have heard a lot over the years about the human consequences of this insurgency, but to listen by myself, to spend time with survivors of Boko Haram, to hear their stories is something else. And one realizes the deep extent of the devastation. This is devastation of villages, towns, infrastructure, environment, that it is also devastation of human lives and the very texture of the community.
The scale of humanitarian crisis has only started becoming clearer recently as Nigerian forces with regional allies push back the insurgents from vast territories they previously occupied. UN estimates 6.5 million are in urgent need of food aid and warns 400,000 children could suffer severe acute malnutrition. To feed them and provide some essential needs throughout the year, the UN says it requires $1 billion. It has launched another appeal of $240 million to cater for Nigerian refugees currently in Cameroon. But Filipo wants to widen the scope of assistance here to include development of the area.
We need to invest in the development of the Lake Chad basin, of the Lake Chad region, because, as I have been saying, you need to win the battle of development if you want to win the war on terrorism and security, because poverty, underdevelopment, lack of education are what breed insecurity. We need to tackle in the whole region, especially in northeast Nigeria, these important development challenges.
The scale of the crisis in the northeast has been a contested issue here, where the UN described it as the biggest in Africa. President Buhari, in a rare public disagreement with the UN, said the scale of the crisis is being exaggerated to attract money. During this trip, Filipo Grandi held direct talks with President Buhari, and it's likely both sides have reached a common understanding on the scale of the crisis. Kelechi Emekalam, CCTV Abuja, Nigeria.